What's up YouTube? Dread Pirate here. It's been a fair bit of time before I uploaded a video that wasn't Elite Dangerous. Actually, it's been a long time since I uploaded an Elite Dangerous video. But they're on the way, don't worry. I'm kind of waiting for power play in that regard. But I've been playing some KSP to kind of distract me. And I thought I would share with you guys what I've been up to. I'm doing career mode with a bunch of mods installed. A bunch. Literally probably like 40 or more, I would guess. And I decided, after getting a contract to plant a flag on Mun, that I wanted to do an Apollo style landing on Minmus. And so I designed this thing. I call it Kerpollo 42. The rocket I took to the Mun was called Kerpollo 11, and it had some design flaws. I did some restructurizing, re-engineering to correct them out in this version. So 42 being, of course, the answer to life, the universe, and everything. While I was preparing the ship, I picked up a contract to rescue some dumb broad, one of the new female Kerbals from orbit. I guess she got herself stranded and needed my assistance. So I decided to make room for her in the capsule. The landing capsule, or the return to Kerbal capsule, of course, only has 3 seats, so we had to make some sacrifices there. But I brought along Jeb and Bob, the old faithful, scaredy cat Bob, and the badass Jeb, of course. The reason I picked Bob, of course, he's a scientist, and in 1.0, the scientist can actually reset experiments in space, which is a pretty neat feature, if you ask me. Now, I don't know. I've never messed with the new contracts mod very much, but I just grabbed it because I figured it might help sort out some stuff. So I'm just doing some quick pre-flight checks here, making sure my staging is in order for launch, and we'll get underway here momentarily. Just trying to see how much Delta V I've got. My Kerbal Engineer Redux isn't working. I guess I forgot to put the part on here. But I do have MechJeb, so that'll help. It's a little light on Delta V for a Mun mission, or a Minmus mission anyways. But the Delta V estimates are never very accurate when you're using asparagus staging for some reason, so we'll see how that works. Alright, and here we go. Now, with the new aerodynamics model, I used to use Ferrum Aerospace all the time because the aerodynamics model in Kerbal Space Program Beta was absolutely atrocious. But with the new model, you actually have a fairly, somewhat remotely accurate to true-to-life aerodynamics. So you kind of have to start your gravity turns a little bit sooner, which is something that I like. It felt very fake in KSP 0.24, for example. So my first set of boosters just fell off there, and we're gaining altitude pretty quick. We're going about 400 meters a second, and passing 6,000 meters. I'm kind of advancing my gravity turn over to about 45 degrees, just to start picking up some horizontal velocity in addition to vertical, and we'll see how this goes. Now, regulars to my channel here will probably note that my voice sounds a bit different. I picked up a snowball, finally. I've been meaning to buy one for a while, because the headset microphone I've got on my Asteroid 40s is fantastic for TeamSpeak, and that's really about it. All my previous Elite Dangerous videos were narrated using the headset microphone, and they sounded okay, but they could definitely sound better. Now, I haven't picked up a pop filter yet, so if you hear any pops over the microphone, I do apologize for that. I'm also going to be kind of narrating this live action instead of pre-scripted. I'd been accused of sounding like I was reading from a book in some of my previous videos, which some people enjoyed. Some people said I sounded like Data from Star Trek, which that's a pretty big compliment, because Data was my all-time favorite character in Star Trek. So thank you, kind sir, whoever said I sounded like that diabolical android madman. But so we're just completing my gravity turn here, bringing the nose over to the horizon to maximize my velocity pickup. My apoapsy is currently at just under 70,000 meters. The reason that I went ahead and leaned my gravity turn all the way over is just to go ahead and start building up some orbital energy. By burning almost completely, or actually completely parallel to the horizon at this point, I'm literally boosting my periapsy, which is still subsurface at this point, up to reduce the amount of time I need to spend burning later. And since I'm burning before my apoapsy, I'm still gaining a little bit of altitude there. As you can see, it's still slowly climbing. I'm going to kind of circularize out around 100,000 meters, which is typically what I usually shoot for with a rocket of this type, especially since I have to do some orbital maneuvers to link up with this boneheaded chick who got herself stranded. I mean, who does that anyways? I mean, they're just now sending me contracts to go to the moon and the Minmus, but apparently some independent space agency has got people already stuck in orbit. So, I mean, there obviously needs to be some more Kerbal regulation passed on space travel, because this is just ridiculous. So I'm just kind of manually circularizing here. I could have just used MechJeb, of course, but I wanted to do this manually so you could kind of see how I do it. Usually you just add prograde energy until your apoapsy and periapsy are 90 degrees to your current position. So basically, if you're on one side of the planet, then you want your apoapsy and periapsy to be 90 degrees to your left and 90 degrees to your right. And then you just add a little bit of radial positive energy to bring your apoapsy back around to your position. And that will almost always, at least in an ascent stage like I was, almost perfectly circularize your orbit. So if you're having trouble doing manual circularizations from launch, that can be, I know I struggled with it for quite a while. I would always end up with a slightly lopsided orbit, and it just drove my OCD nuts. It was terrible. But I got it sorted out now, so don't have to use MechJeb anymore. I will be using MechJeb a little bit throughout this video, so I do apologize for those of you who think that it's not fair. But I did unlock all this stuff the hard way, so I earned it. Get over yourselves. It's a game, people. Stop caring. Now, I'm going to warn you, this video is a long video. You probably noticed in the preview. It is 41 minutes and 40 seconds. Well, 41 seconds if you want to be technical. So please, feel free to fast forward if you don't like what's currently going on. I do use in-game fast travel, of course, and post-processing fast forwarding as well when appropriate. So you can see here I've separated into the final stage, and I am transferring Bob over to the lander so that I can decouple, turn around, dock with it, and I gotta jettison my emergency escape tower. Here we go. And I'll actually probably just use the lander to dock because it's a little bit more agile than this big, heavy command service module here. I haven't really unlocked a lot of the ultra lightweight technology yet that seriously increases your thrust and your efficiency. So I'm still kind of doing it the fat old-fashioned way. But I'm actually waiting on a couple more of my regular mods to be upgraded to 1.02, so I'm missing a few components that I would normally have at this point, and yeah, throws me off a bit. Gotta get there somehow though, right? A little bit too thrust there. A little bit too much thrust, anyway. I kind of goofed up a little bit when I built this lander. I forgot to balance the RCS load. So my center of mass is significantly lower than the RCS placement. So when I turn, it tends to wobble around and gain some inertia on its own, gain some momentum. Have to be careful to compensate for that. Okay, so we're lined back up here just about. I'm doing this docking completely manually. I haven't even used any of the docking aids or anything like that. Matter of fact, I don't think I've ever used a docking aid in this game, except if I'm in a really big hurry, I'll just use MechJeb to dock for me. Even then, sometimes it seems like I can dock faster than MechJeb can. I guess I use smartass sometimes. I'll use smartass as target relative negative to lock it up. But so we've retrieved our Minmus. I don't know. But now we need to rendezvous with this chick, with this gal who's floating up here in space. So I'm actually only about 15,000 meters higher in my orbit than she is. So it's going to take her a while to catch up to me. So rather than kind of do this manually, I'm just going to use MechJeb to quickly plot a maneuver node to figure out exactly when I need to begin my Holman transfer. And then I'm going to use Kerbal alarm clock to let me know. At 99,000 meters, I can only fast travel, I think, times 100, and that's pretty slow. It's 3 hours from now, so I mean that would be about 5 to 10 minutes of game footage if I wanted to record that. It's a little bit easier just to do this. This is actually the main reason I have Kerbal alarm clock, that and for those pesky interplanetary probe missions where you have to fine-tune the approach vector about halfway through the journey, and you're halfway through landing something on the moon, and it pops up and says, "Hey, pay attention to me," and you're like, "God damn it!" and you crash and explode. Yeah, that's happened. I'm not vengeful, I promise. Okay, so we're just letting fast travel do its thing, and Kerbal alarm clock actually automatically slows down warp for you, so you don't even need to worry about landing it exactly. It will bring you out of warp when it needs to, which is pretty convenient if you have that feature enabled. If you do a lot of interplanetary stuff or like to multitask in KSP, that's a very good way to do it. Hats off to the developer of that mod. Definitely very useful. So we are beginning our rendezvous burn now, and then all we have to do is match the velocities when she catches up to us. She's only about 80 kilometers away at this point, so it shouldn't be very long. And of course I did go ahead and post-process fast forward this for you. I know that watching a rendezvous is not exactly exciting material, so well, I'm going to do my best to minimize the boring bits of the video. Then again, you might find the whole video boring. Sorry, there's a fast forward button there for you if you want to use it, but yeah, I hope it's not that bad. I'm just going to drift over here, and they kind of changed it. The last time I did a rendezvous mission in 0.90 or one of the builds before that, the Kerbal was actually just floating in space. There was no pod, there's no nothing. This one, at first glance, it looks to be one of the MKS modules. I'm pretty sure, yeah, mobile refinery module. It looks like one of the MKS parts, which actually looks pretty sharp. I'm curious how it got stranded up here, since that's actually a planetary module and not an orbital module. But when disaster strikes, you never know, man. But yeah, so I got her required. I am going to put her in the limb, actually. Give her something exciting to do after being rescued. She was obviously up here in space on some important, very exciting mission, and it faced disaster, and she's looking pretty thrilled at being rescued. So why not take her on a treat? Take her over to Minmus and show her the giant ice cream ball. Let's take a look from Bob's perspective and see. Yeah, she's looking pretty pleased. Okay, so wayward crew member rescued, and we are now going to plot our course over to Minmus. First, I need to match the plane really quick, which is fairly easy. Just go to the ascending or descending node and then make a corrective burn to match your inclination. Fairly easy stuff. Once those nodes say 0.0, then you know you're on the money. I'm kind of doing a lot of time warping. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy my solar sails so that in event of disaster, or just excessive time warp, my batteries don't run dry and leave my pod completely helpless. Of course it's crude, so I don't really have to worry about that, but that's always a very bad thing when that happens to your probes. Now, I noticed something strange here while I'm doing this burn. The indicated delta V amount is going up rather than down, and I'm looking at my orbital plane here, and it's kind of going in the wrong direction. Well, I figured it was a bug, so I did a quick restart, save, and load there. Of course, 2020 hindsight has a way of making you look like an ass, and I realized that what probably happened was the Alcor pod got set as the control from here module, which reversed the indicated direction of the nav ball, since it's facing the opposite direction. So probably my own fault, but either way, crisis averted. We're now back on course to match our plane with Minmus out there, and we're set to begin our burn here. Now, for Minmus, it's actually about the same position for a burn out to Minmus as it is in relation to the orbiting body. And here I'm actually a little bit short, just because it's been a while since I've done a Minmus mission. But the cool thing that I like to do when planning maneuvers like this is just rotate the maneuver node around, rather than delete it and create a new one. But trying to get rid of some of this clutter here. I've got a bunch of orbital vessels and debris on my map, and it's just making everything a mess to look at. So let's see if we can get that cleaned up a little bit. There we go. Now it says there's an EVA. I don't see any EVAs, but if it says there's one, then there must be one somewhere. I'll have to track it down later. So I just bring this over here, and it looks like I need a little bit more thrust into it here. There we go. There's the encounter I'm looking for. Now a lot of people like to do kind of a wide sweeping arc, or burn out past it and then catch it on the way back. But to me, and I'm no astrophysicist, of course, I have no idea how all this stuff works. I just play the damn game. Kind of seems like you want to get it so that you're not going overly fast when you get there, because you have to slow down quite a bit in order to get captured by Minmus's gravity, because it's such a small sphere of influence, and such a light sphere of influence. So you want to burn as weakly, you want to expend as little energy as possible getting there, so that you have more to slow down on. It just seems more efficient to me. So I don't know if you know that I'm wrong, or have some other tips for me, feel free to comment and let me know. I'm always accepting of criticism as long as it's reasonable. Just don't tell me that pirates suck and should die, because that just won't make me like you. Alright, so we have arrived at our encounter with Minmus, and I'm on a collision course. Exciting, right? That's okay, we can correct that really quickly. We just need to burn radial positive here for a second, just to push our periapsy back into a spot that makes sense. And that should be pretty easy to do. This is the least amount of delta V required to get your periapsis back. You can, I guess you could burn straight at it and it might come back, but simply burning 100% radial positive will almost always restore it quite quickly. MechJeb loves to do that. If you set MechJeb to Holman transfer to a moon, it almost always puts you on a collision course with it, and you have to burn radial positive to get away from it, or to get back on, a safe course. Now, I came in at a pretty high angle here, pretty high inclination, almost 50, maybe 60 degrees, and I'm looking at my fuel gauge and I'm going, I don't really have enough fuel for this. I don't even know if I'm going to make it back at this point, because part of that fuel that's indicated on my resources panel up there is actually in the lander. So this is going to be close, and it's actually going to be really close, because my periapsy over Minmus is only 5,000 meters at this point. But that's close in a different regard, I suppose. Ooh, look at those mountains. I definitely hit quick save some point along here, just because those mountains look like they were just coming up to meet me a little bit too quickly. Just doing our retrograde burn here to slow us down, and actually, it's actually kind of weird if you think about it. I'm slowing down in relation to Minmus, but I'm actually speeding up in relation to Kerbal. My orbital velocity around Kerbal is actually rising. I know, it's kind of a strange concept, but it's true, at least in a certain manner of speaking. So I think we're completely circularized now, at a pretty low altitude. I'm not sure if I'm quite comfortable with this. 5,000 meters. I'm sure some of the peaks on Minmus, I don't know off the top of my head if any of them actually reach up to 5,000 meters, but yeah, I would have liked. I was kind of hoping that Squad would have integrated the radar altimeter on the external camera display on the top, and I guess it kind of does. That little tiny little meter to the right of it indicates your radar altimeter, but doesn't do so accurately above 1,000 meters or whatever. So you can't really tell just by looking at it how far you are above 1,000 meters. Which I guess, if you're over 1,000 meters above the terrain, then you don't have much to worry about, unless of course there's an atmosphere. But obviously there's not one here. But I'm going to go ahead and increase my orbital altitude up to about 10,000 just to be safe. So let's do another circularization move here, and we'll do some more fast forwarding to get us there a little bit quicker. And see that peak right there that I just passed over was a little close. If I hadn't done that maneuver, it might have caused some issues. And I think I'm gonna figure out where I'm gonna land. This orbital path actually takes me over a nice wide clearing, one of the plains of Minmus, the flat ice plateaus or whatever you want to call them, ice plains, I guess. But yeah, I think we're gonna land there. Good easy spot to set down, and should be fun. Of course, landing on Minmus isn't exactly hard. It's the lowest gravity body in the Kerbal microsystem, but whatever works. Okay, so I think we are now completely circularized where I need to be. So I'm just going to turn radial positive, or normal positive anyways, so that I have a good reference point to drop the lander from. Should make it a little bit easier to dock with when I get back to, because I'll know which direction it's facing. In theory. That's the theory anyways. Best laid plans. So we've got Bob Kerman and Miss Delena Kerman. Delena, I think that's how you pronounce that. On our lander. They are our away team, our landing party. Whatever. Bob's the commander of the lunar excursion module. Or is it exploration module? I can't remember. Anyway, so I just set us up for a nice retrograde, a nice retrograde burn. Did some quick sorting to make sure that my staging was in order. Since the capsule was docked to the nose, I had to make sure that none of the staging would be accidentally triggered in flight or during a launch when it was inside of its protective fairing. Which, I don't know, I feel like they should, and maybe they have and I just never tested it, but I think there should be like a safety on parts to prevent them from activating engines when they're still inside fairings. But I guess I know that there isn't, because there's been a couple times where I may or may not have forgotten to equip a decoupler and tried to light the next engine and it didn't go anywhere. Yeah, that's not something that I'm proud of, so don't tell anybody, okay? It's just between you and me. But I'm gonna try something new. I've done several Minmus landings, several Mun landings, Duna landings, even done a Tylo landing. That was a pain in the ass. I have never done an entirely IVA landing. and I actually did a review video of an earlier version of this Alcor capsule that I'm flying, and some people said that I should have done the landing IVA. So I don't know, I'm going to be fast forwarding through a significant portion of it just because it doesn't make for a very interesting video watching the pods slowly come down. But I might, actually I probably will save the footage, and maybe I'll submit it to the Alcor ASET guys as another proof of concept. You can see I got a bunch of different mods running here. I've got obviously raster prop monitor, which is required, at least for me. I mean, it's not required for the Alcor pod. You can use the Alcor pod without it, but it's required for me because this thing is awesome. I mean, the level of functionality that this adds in immersion. I mean, can you imagine, just for a second, imagine doing something like this in, say, an Oculus Rift. You know, you can actually look around the cockpit of the pod and actually use all the on-screen displays, just like I'm doing, except in virtual reality. Can you imagine how amazing that would be? I mean, seriously, that is something that I'm super hyped for, VR technology. And I actually owned a DK2 recently. I ended up selling it just because the only game I played with it was Elite Dangerous, and I couldn't really justify having a $350 piece of hardware for one game. But they announced CV1 literally like a week after I sold it. So I mean, it was okay timing. It's coming out in quarter one of 2016, which I'm not too particularly pleased about, considering they swore up and down that something really terrible would have to happen for it to not have a 2015 release date. But that's okay. I mean, Vive's coming out in 2015, so maybe I'll just get that instead. I mean, honestly, they're using HTC technology, and I own HTC phones over Samsung phones. And Samsung was the display that powered the Oculus DK2. Of course, that doesn't mean anything. They obviously just went with whatever screen could support their needs, but Steam is backing Vive, and that is important. I mean, Steam is huge when it comes to gaming. I mean, I'd argue, actually, I'm pretty certain that they're the single most powerful gaming entity in the world. But yeah, anyway, I digress. So, time warping done, and we are just about to set down here on Minmus. Radar altimeter indicates 70 meters above the surface, and we're coming down nice and slow. Could have come down a little bit faster, so sorry for that, but whatever. But you can see the vessel view indicator, which is another mod I've got running, on the panel to the right there, actually changes, which I didn't realize until a few seconds from now when I actually turned to look at it, that it actually shows me my position in relation to the ground as I'm looking at it now, which I thought at the time I thought that was the slickest thing in the world. And yeah, I mean, these mod makers, they're crazy. I mean, they've made so much really amazing stuff that they make the game for me. You know, I played stock KSP for the longest time, and then I got into modding it, and I was just like, I don't know how I ever did this. You know, things like Kerbal attachment system and the new Kerbal inventory system, which I haven't had a chance to mess with too much yet, but it looks super exciting. KSP Interstellar was amazing. I'm a little bit disappointed that Fractal UK disappeared, but real life comes first, you know. But yeah, I mean, in this game with mods it's totally worth it. It's amazing. Look at this. You can interact with this stupid little stopwatch duct taped up here. Who does that? Okay. Our passenger is absolutely thrilled at being on Minmus. Okay, awesome. Let's take a look from her perspective here, see what she sees. Oh, so she has her little flight panel back here too. That's kind of neat. In an older version, in the version that I tested in Alcor, you could click on this hatch and it would actually, it looks like it's going to, it would actually EVA you just from clicking on the hatch. And that is so cool. Look at that. It just folds up out of the way. It's a regular airlock. That is so cool. And then it poops me out the back. Fantastic. Yay. Oof. Look at her. She's just having a blast. She must have the badass trait. Let's have her do some stunts. Yay, stunts. little bit easier to do on Minmus than they are on Kerbal. You try it on Kerbal and they tend to land on their heads. Or actually not take off at all. Do some science. 100 science for recovering an EVA report from the surface. 375 for recovering a surface sample. Now, I guess I should be fair. I have my science results jacked up a little bit because for the new KSPI Extended, you have to use Commuted Detect Tree, which like quadruples the amount of science you need to fill out the science tree. Now, I want a little bit of a challenge. I don't want a sense of progression, but I don't want to grind. If I wanted to grind, I'd be playing a Korean MMO. I mean, come on, guys. So I have my science rewards turned way up. 250%, I think. But, yeah, I'm just getting some science here. Science alerts this neat little mod. I think the only thing it does is adds this toolbar icon that lights up and makes a sciencey noise, a little bubbling sound, whenever there's science that you haven't recovered yet. It gets a little annoying at times, but it's amazing how much science I've picked up on that I didn't know I could get. Like, for example, in orbit of Kerbal, you can get EVA data above each individual biome, which is something that I guess I knew, but I didn't realize how many biomes there were until I had the Science Alert plugin, and it just kept flashing. And the same above the moon and above Minmus. They added biomes to every planet in one of the earlier versions. I think that was in 0.25 or 0.24, but really good stuff. Lets you know everything that you missed. Gotta put a flag down. First IVA only landing. A little bit easier thanks to the Alcor pod, definitely. All those cameras, the beautifully designed prop monitors, helping guide me down. And then, like a good Kerbal, we must stand on said flag and then get stuck on it with our helmets. What sort of Kerbals would we be if we did not do that? Whee! Do a barrel roll. Oh wait, sorry. That was a loop-de-loop. And ladders. Still not quite working as intended. What happens if I push this button? Yeah, I actually realized that the lander's not actually sitting on the landing legs, it's sitting on the engines. I'll have to fix that in a future revision. Probably partly because these landing legs are they're designed for probes, they're not really designed for landers. A little bit too heavy. But I couldn't fit the larger landing legs inside the fairings without adding a significant amount of width to them because I only have 2.5 meter stacks available at the time. So I guess it's not a complete Apollo-like landing mission because the Apollo main stage was like 10 meters long, Saturn V, or 10 meters wide. It was freaking huge. Yeah. Physics. I has it. Get in there. There we go. And it still says I have more reports available. Yeah, that's one of the things that gets kind of buggy about it, is it seems like if you don't transmit the data or turn it in, then you, it'll still pop up and say, oh, hey, you can do this. I don't know if that's because I have a scientist on board or what the deal is there, but it doesn't seem to do that all the time. See, it's still saying that I have EVA reports, even though I know for a fact that I've gathered pretty much all that I can gather from this sector. And I had, temperature gauges and barometers and other science equipment on this pod, but I made some modifications to the fuel tanks after the aforementioned structural redesign at the beginning of the video. And I forgot to reattach them, so oops, my bad. I guess I'll have to come back here. Not that I mind. Minmus is one of my favorite places to visit. The low gravity is amazing. But we're just going to use Translatron to go over to the mountains, the slopes over there, to get a little bit more science while we're here. So I'm just going to bring my altitude up a couple meters here and then turn Translatron on keep vertical mode, and it will use the main engines to keep my velocity at 0, prevent me from crashing. pretty neat little thing. Don't think I haven't found a use for. Well, keep surface can be used for space planes, but control malfunction. But with the jet engines, the jet engines respond a little bit too slowly, so it can be kind of difficult using it for a space plane. I haven't really found another use for the orbital mode, for example, though. So if you know of any, please let me know, because it's a nifty little plugin for MechJeb that I would like to be able to use more, but just don't have much of a use for it. Okay, so I'm just picking up some more science here. I'm not really gonna waste a lot of time making you guys watch this. Everybody's grabbed science. Nothing fancy here. The next interesting thing that happens is my return to the command section of the service module. So rather than trying to burn up and then rendezvous with it, knowing that both modules are now fairly low on fuel, I decided to just do something that they recommend that you don't do and burn more or less straight towards it, which actually works out pretty well. I had a control malfunction there because I had enabled the stage safety inside the pod, which prevented me from jettisoning the descent stage. But with that result, I actually was able to quickly and easily match velocities with the orbiting module and link up with it. That's actually another first for me. I've almost always used orbital rendezvous to link up lander modules with command sections or service modules before. So doing it this way was kind of an interesting challenge. I wasn't sure I was going to make it there. And I actually did run out of liquid fuel and ended up finishing the maneuver using the remaining RCS, which I had an ample supply of, so it wasn't a huge concern. And of course, about that time I realized I'd put the Oscar Beast size fuel tank instead of the larger one that I wanted to put on there. Another oops. I'm not getting very good. I'm not very good at this anyway. So we just gotta get lined back up here and perform another manual docking, since I don't have docking autopilot unlocked yet for MechJeb. Not that I need it, but like I said, it can be easier after you've done a long mission like this just to let the autopilot dock for you. Boing. And secured. There we go. Alright, so I'm just going to kind of finish out, do a little bit more of the orbital science from D-Magic orbital science that I had forgotten to do when I arrived, and then return to Kerbal. The return trip was mostly uneventful. I did run out of liquid fuel in the service module, and I had to use RCS to slow the rest of my orbit and to a orbital braking or an aero braking situation. It did take quite a few loops before I lost enough velocity to re-enter, to safely re-enter, I should say. But finally got it, and just kind of your standard re-entry into Kerbal, a little bit fast, a little bit hot, a lot hot. When there's flames flying off your pod, that's usually a pretty clear indicator of how hot it is. But I was kind of apprehensive when I heard that they were adding re-entry heat in KSP1, and you were suddenly going to have to worry about stuff like that. I was mostly worried about how most of the science modules require you to recover them in order to get the science back, but it never occurred to me that you can just pick up the science from said module and take it into the command section with you. For some reason that just didn't compute. But yeah, I remembered it in fairly short order. I don't have the higher grade parachutes, the larger ones, unlocked yet for some reason, so I'm going to set these to open a little bit higher than normal, just to give me some extra braking as I arrive. Cover your ass, or face in this case, since the parachutes are above me. But yeah, I'd say a pretty successful mission. Now all I have to do is Wait. I hate waiting. Oh wait, we have fast forwarding for this. Well, this is the end. Thanks for watching, guys. If you survived this far, see you next time.